I'd spent 32 years building the Harper Gallery from a single storefront in downtown Portland into a 3-location art and design house. My business partner, Margaret Chen, had been with me for 25 of those years. We'd started as competitors, became friends, then partners when we merged our galleries in 1999. She handled finances and acquisitions. I handled artists and exhibitions. We were the perfect team. That Tuesday morning in October, I was in my office reviewing submissions for our winter show when an email notification appeared on my screen. The subject line read, Ownership Transfer Documents. Confidential. I almost deleted it, thinking it was spam, until I saw the sender. Jenkins and Associates, corporate attorneys. I opened it. Margaret. Attached are the revised LLC ownership transfer documents as discussed. Once Eleanor signs the retirement papers, the transition will be complete. Please review the non-compete clause we strengthened per your request. She won't be able to open another gallery within 100 miles for 5 years. Call me if you need any changes before Friday's signing. I read it 3 times. My hand didn't shake. I didn't cry. I didn't even feel surprised, which was perhaps the saddest part. I simply closed the email, opened a new folder on my desktop, and titled it Documentation. The lawyer had sent it to my email address by mistake. Margaret and I shared similar email handles, both with our gallery domain. It was the kind of error that would have been funny in different circumstances. Instead, it was the thread that would unravel everything. I stood up, walked to my window overlooking the sculpture garden we'd built together 5 years ago, and thought about the signs I'd ignored. 3 months ago, Margaret had suggested I might want to slow down and enjoy retirement at 62. Last month, she'd insisted on updating our partnership agreement, claiming it was just modernizing paperwork. 2 weeks ago, she'd asked me to sign some documents when I had time, which I'd been too busy to review carefully. I wasn't panicking because I'd been here before, in a way. Not this exact betrayal, but I'd survived my husband's affair 20 years ago, my daughter's estrangement and reconciliation, and building a business from nothing. You learn something after 6 decades. The people who underestimate you are giving you your greatest advantage. I sat back down and began making a list. Not of what I'd lost, but of what I needed to know. First, I went through our shared server. Margaret had been careless, probably assuming I wasn't tech-savvy enough to navigate our digital files. I'd built our first website myself in 2003. I knew exactly where everything was stored. I found a folder buried 3 levels deep titled 2024 Restructuring. Inside were correspondence with Jenkins and Associates dating back 6 months, financial projections that showed my salary eliminated and Margaret's doubled, and a letter to our investors, describing me as ready to step back and Margaret as sole visionary moving forward. There were emails to our accountant about transitioning Eleanor out smoothly and discussions about a retirement package that was roughly a third of what my ownership stake was actually worth. She'd been planning this since April. I took screenshots of everything. I used my phone, not screen captures, because I'd learned from my daughter who worked in corporate law that metadata could be altered. Each photo showed the date, time, and my computer screen clearly. Next, I checked our business accounts. I had equal access as co-owner, though Margaret handled the day-to-day finances. What I found made my stomach turn. Over the past year, she'd transferred nearly $400,000 to an LLC I'd never heard of, MC Consulting Services. The descriptions were vague: marketing consultation, acquisition research, strategic planning. I looked up MC Consulting Services. It was registered to Margaret's home address. She'd been paying herself through a shell company, padding her income while telling me we needed to tighten our belts and reduce overhead. I printed every bank statement from the past 2 years. I highlighted each transfer to MC Consulting in yellow. The pattern was obvious once you saw it. Always just under $15,000, probably to avoid triggering automatic reviews. Always on different days of the month. Always with those vague descriptions. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I'd learned that lesson the hard way with my ex-husband. Confrontation gives them time to prepare, to craft their story, to hide more evidence. Instead, I needed her to feel secure, to believe her plan was working. That afternoon, when Margaret stopped by my office to chat about a new artist submission, I smiled warmly. "You know, you were right," I said. "I have been tired lately. All this travel to art fairs, the late nights at openings. I'm starting to think about what retirement might look like." Her eyes lit up, but she masked it quickly with concern. "Oh, Eleanor, I didn't mean to pressure you. I just worry about your health. You've given so much to this place." "I know," I said. "You've always looked out for me. That's what I appreciate about our partnership." She squeezed my hand. "Always," she said. I wanted to vomit, but I kept smiling. "I have been meaning to review those papers you left me, the partnership agreement updates." "No rush," she said, too quickly. "Whenever you have time." "I'll look at them this week," I said. "And Margaret, thank you. For everything, for being someone I can trust." She actually hugged me before she left. I stood there in her embrace, thinking about how easy it is to hug someone while stabbing them in the back. That night, I called my daughter, Lisa, who was a corporate attorney in Seattle. I didn't tell her everything, just asked hypothetically what someone should do if they discovered financial irregularities in a business partnership. "Document everything," she said immediately. "Bank statements, emails, any evidence of unauthorized transfers. Then consult an attorney before confronting the other party." "Mom, this isn't about Dad, is it? Because he's been—" "No, honey," I interrupted. "This is just research for a friend. Your friend should also check the partnership agreement carefully. Sometimes these cases hinge on what's actually spelled out in the contract versus what was assumed." After we hung up, I pulled out our original partnership agreement from 1999. I read every word, something I hadn't done in years. Margaret and I each owned 50%. Any major decision required both signatures. The transfer of ownership required the explicit consent of both parties, in writing, with independent legal counsel present. The papers Margaret had asked me to sign, the ones sitting on my desk, were deliberately complex and filled with legal jargon, but buried in Section 7. 3 was language that would give Margaret the right to assume full ownership in the event of partner retirement, resignation, or incapacitation, for fair market value to be determined by independent appraisal. It was clever. She'd framed it as protecting us both, but the independent appraisal would be done by someone she'd choose. She'd offer me a lowball number, I'd have no leverage to negotiate, and she'd own everything we'd built. Except I wasn't going to sign. Instead, I had a different plan. Over the next 3 weeks, I continued playing the role of the tired, retiring business owner. I mentioned looking at condos in Arizona. I talked about finally taking that art tour through Italy I'd always wanted. I asked Margaret's advice about pension plans and retirement accounts. Meanwhile, I hired my own attorney, a sharp woman named Patricia Rodriguez, who specialized in business fraud. I showed her everything: the emails, the bank transfers, the shell company, the ownership transfer documents. "This is embezzlement," Patricia said, her eyes wide. "And attempted fraud. She's trying to steal your business and make you pay taxes on a retirement package that's worth a fraction of your actual equity. Can we prove it?" I asked. "With this evidence?" "Absolutely. But Eleanor, you have a decision to make. We can file criminal charges, which means police, possibly jail time for her, or we can handle this civilly, recover your money, and dissolve the partnership. What do you want?" I thought about Margaret. 25 years of friendship. Or what I'd thought was friendship. Holidays together. Supporting each other through divorces and family illnesses. The trip to New York, when we'd celebrated landing our first major collector. Had any of it been real? "I want her to know that I knew," I said finally. "I want her to understand that she didn't fool me, that she underestimated me, and that has consequences. Then I want her gone from my business and my life. I don't want to see her in handcuffs. I want to see her face when she realizes she lost." Patricia smiled. "I can work with that." We crafted our plan carefully. Patricia contacted Jenkins & Associates, informing them that their client was attempting to defraud her business partner and that any documents executed under false pretenses would be void and subject to legal action. She copied the Oregon State Bar Association. The lawyer who'd sent that email practically tripped over himself backtracking, claiming he'd been misled by Margaret about my intention to retire. Then Patricia sent a formal letter to Margaret at the gallery, marked Urgent, Legal Notice. It detailed every fraudulent transfer, every piece of evidence we had, and gave her 48 hours to respond. But we timed it to arrive on Friday afternoon, the same day Margaret had planned for me to sign the retirement papers. I was in my office when Margaret received the letter. I heard her in her office next door, the sound of an envelope opening, then silence. Long, heavy silence. Then her door burst open. She appeared in my doorway, her face pale, holding Patricia's letter. "Eleanor, I can explain." "I don't think you can," I said calmly. I'd been preparing for this moment for 3 weeks. I knew exactly what I wanted to say. "I saw the email from your lawyer, the one he sent to my address by mistake." "That was 4 weeks ago, Margaret." Her hand went to her mouth. 4 weeks, I continued. "I've spent every day since then documenting your embezzlement, your fraud, your plan to steal my business. Did you really think I wouldn't notice $400,000 missing? Or did you think I was too old and too trusting to check?" "Eleanor, please." I wasn't trying to. "Don't lie to me anymore," I said, and my voice was harder than I'd ever heard it. "I trusted you. I brought you into my business when you were struggling. We built this together, and you tried to take everything." She started crying. "I'm in debt. My divorce, the legal fees. I made some bad investments. I just needed—" "So, you decided to rob me?" I stood up. "You had 25 years to ask for help, Margaret. 25 years of partnership. Instead, you created a fake consulting company, embezzled from our accounts, and tried to trick me into signing away my life's work. Don't cry and pretend this was anything other than what it was: theft." "What are you going to do?" she whispered. "That depends on you," I said. I walked to my desk and pulled out a document Patricia had prepared. "You're going to sign this. It's an agreement that you will pay back every cent you stole, with interest, over the next 3 years. You will dissolve MC Consulting and provide documentation of where every dollar went. You will sell your 50% ownership back to me for the price we'll both pay to have it independently appraised by an appraiser we both approve. And you will resign from the Harper Gallery immediately, with a statement that you're leaving to pursue other opportunities. No bad-mouthing me, the business, or this situation. And if I don't?" Her voice was barely audible. "Then my attorney files criminal charges on Monday morning: embezzlement, fraud, attempted theft by deception. With the evidence we have, you'll be facing years in prison, Margaret. Your name will be destroyed. You'll never work in this industry again." I paused. "But if you sign this, you'll walk away with your freedom and a chance to rebuild your life somewhere else. You won't have much money after you pay back what you stole, but you'll have your liberty." She stared at the document, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so sorry, Eleanor. I never meant—" "Yes, you did," I said quietly. "You meant every bit of it. You just never meant to get caught." She signed the papers that afternoon. Patricia witnessed it along with a notary we'd brought in. Margaret cleaned out her office that weekend. She sent an email to our staff and artists explaining she was stepping back to focus on personal matters and that I would be continuing the gallery's legacy. The independent appraisal came back valuing her 50% at $1.8 million. With the $400,000 she owed me, plus interest and legal fees, she netted about $1.3 million. She used most of it to pay off her debts. I heard she moved to New Mexico to work at a small gallery there, using a different name professionally. I hired a new business manager, a young woman named Sarah who reminded me of myself 30 years ago. Hungry, talented, and honest. I promoted my senior curator to partner with a 20% stake because I realized I didn't want to do this alone anymore, but this time I wanted someone who'd earned my trust through years of loyalty, not just claimed it. The Harper Gallery had its most successful year ever. Turns out, without someone siphoning off $400,000, our profit margins improved dramatically. I rebranded slightly, adding Eleanor Harper Gallery to emphasize the legacy and history. Collectors appreciated knowing the founder was still involved. I did eventually think about retirement, but on my own terms. I'm 64 now, 2 years after Margaret's betrayal. I've set up a succession plan with Sarah and my curator partner. When I'm ready to step back, it will be gradual, compensated fairly, and entirely my choice. Sometimes I wonder if Margaret ever thinks about what she lost, Not the money or the business, but the relationship. We could have grown old together in this industry, attended each other's grandkids' graduations, celebrated 40 years of partnership. She traded all of that for a quick payout that didn't even work. I don't hate her. I did, for a while. Now I mostly feel sad for her. She saw a 62-year-old woman and assumed she could be easily manipulated, easily pushed aside, easily forgotten. She forgot that I'd built this business from nothing, survived a terrible marriage, raised a daughter on my own, and navigated decades in an industry that didn't always welcome women my age. She forgot that underestimating someone doesn't make them weak, it just makes you wrong. My daughter asked me once why I didn't press criminal charges, why I let Margaret walk away with anything at all. I told her the truth. I didn't need Margaret in jail to feel vindicated. I needed her to know that I knew, that I'd been 3 steps ahead of her the whole time, and that she'd lost everything that mattered because she was arrogant enough to think she could outsmart me. Revenge isn't always about destruction. Sometimes it's about making sure someone understands exactly what they threw away. Margaret lost a business worth millions, a partnership that could have lasted decades, and a friend who would have helped her through her financial troubles if she'd only asked. She lost her reputation in our industry. She lost her home in Portland, her network, her standing. And me? I kept everything. My business, my dignity, my peace of mind. I learned that you can rebuild trust slowly, carefully, with people who deserve it. I learned that documentation is more powerful than confrontation. I learned that the best revenge is not just success, but having the wisdom to protect what you've built. Every time I walk through the gallery now, past the artists we represent and the collectors who've been with us for decades, I remember. Some people will see your kindness as weakness, your trust as naivety, your age as incompetence. Don't let them change who you are. Just make sure they never see you coming. Margaret taught me that the hard way. She wanted me to retire into obscurity while she took credit for our legacy. Instead, she's the one who disappeared, and the Harper Gallery stands stronger than ever, with my name on the door where it belongs. That's not revenge. That's justice. And after 64 years on this planet, I've learned there's a difference.